Today on the range we are putting the new TaylorMade drivers up against each other in a head-to-head battle. Now we've got the M1 and the M2. Now the M1 launched last year is all about personalisation. It's about optimising launch spin and shot shape to help maximise distance, whereas the new M2 is geared more towards forgiveness. Now there's a lot of similarities with these two drivers. They're both part of the M family, which means multi-material, so we've got these carbon composite crown on both the drivers. In fact, looking down at address, they look very, very similar indeed. So that's in the M1. This weight saving has allowed them to implement these two sliding weight tracks, but in the M2 it's been used more for forgiveness purposes, so it's allowed TaylorMade to place more of the weight in the perimeter of the club. The CG is further back in this driver, so in theory should be more forgiving. Now as we know, the M2 replaces the Aeroburner driver. Make sure you check out Neil Tappin's full review of the M2 driver on our relevant channels. But today I'm going to be hitting these up to head to see how they compare. I've been using the same shaft and the same loft, so I've been using my custom fitted Aldilla Rogue extra stiff shaft, which is the low launching of the three stock options that came with the M1. So I've got a 9.5 head here with the M2. I've got a 10.5 head here, notched down 2 clicks on the M1. So similar loft, not exactly the same, but hopefully very similar. In terms of the sliding weight position in the M1, I've got it in the middle of the front track and then right at the back of the back track, which should replicate a similar weight position we see on the M2. So let's have a look on the GC2 data and see exactly where the differences lie. Okay, so looking at the GC2 data between these two drivers, the performance was very, very similar indeed. Starting with the M1, average carry was around 270 yards on the GC2, spinning at around 2,200, ball speed of about 158 miles per hour. Moving on to the M2 driver, it was very similar. Marginal difference in carry, averaging around 268, slightly less ball speed and similar amounts of spin. I was actually surprised at how low spinning the M2 was. I was getting some shots around about 1700, 1800 RPMs of spin. So surprisingly low spin for what is essentially a more forgiving driver with the CG low and back. So the performance very similar between the two. So you're probably wondering, how do you choose between the M2 and the M1? Well, first off, the M2 is obviously £100 cheaper, so that's a big consideration for golfers out there. Obviously with the M1 you've got more opportunity to personalise the spec of this driver. You know, if you're someone who turns the ball over too much, you're able to put the sliding weight into the fade position, which should help negate that shot. And forgiveness is a word thrown around in driver design. Obviously you've got MOI, which the M2 has slightly more of, but then you've got the ability to negate your bad shot. Is that forgiveness? That's up for debate, but it's certainly a way of straightening out your drives, which ultimately is what forgiveness is all about. So the M1 does offer that in a different way to the M2. Both feel very stable at impact. I've said that before in my M1 review. Don't forget to check that out on our channels if you haven't already. The M2 feels equally stable. Like I said, looks exactly the same at address. Club head speed was very similar. Interestingly, also hit the M2 with the stock stiff shaft, and that actually performed better than I was expecting. And I think that's what the M2 is all about. It's about a driver that's easy to get on with straight away. You don't want to go through all the custom fitting and get all the bells and whistles on your driver. You just want to better pick a club off the rack and get some pretty good performance out of it straight away. Obviously you've got the adjustable loft sleeve on the M2, so you can adjust that to fine tune your launch and spin a little bit if you want to, but all in all the M2 is more about forgiveness. It's about distance. You know, distance comparable with the M1 was very similar. So I do think that if you are in the market for a new driver and you don't want to spend a lot of money, you're not going to lose out on masses of performance at all if you buy the M2 over the M1. So hopefully that's been helpful. Post comments down below, love to hear what you think. Don't forget to check out the Golf Monthly website for all the latest reviews on all the new TaylorMade M2 product, the Fairwood and the irons as well. So thanks for watching and we'll see you again soon.